There's a specific sound that silence makes when it crashes into a room full of money. It's not quiet. It's heavy. It presses against your eardrums like deep water. That was the sound inside Luke Jardin the moment Tiffany pushed her chair back. The legs of the chair screeched against the imported Italian marble floor. It was a violent, ugly noise that cut right through the soft jazz and the murmur of polite conversation. 50 heads turned. 50 pairs of eyes, belonging to the city's elite, senators, hedge fund managers, old money heiresses, locked on a table 14. Locked onto us. Or rather, they locked onto her. Tiffany was standing up. Her hands were planted flat on the white tablecloth, her knuckles white, her manicured nails digging into the fabric like claws. She was beautiful, objectively speaking. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, a dress that probably cost more than my first car. But in that moment, her face was twisted into a sneer so ugly it made her look like a monster. "You have got to be kidding me," she said. Her voice wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a discreet murmur intended for a private dispute. It was a broadcast. It was a performance. She wanted the room to hear. She wanted the waiter, who was hovering nervously with the leather bill folder, to hear. Most importantly, she wanted me to feel it. I didn't move. I stayed seated, my hands resting calmly in my lap. I looked up at her, keeping my expression entirely neutral. A poker face that had closed deals worth 8 figures. "Is there a problem, Tiffany?" I asked. My voice was low, steady, a contrast to her shrill accusation. "A problem?" She laughed, a harsh, barking sound. She grabbed her clutch purse, Chanel, likely fake, but good enough to fool the untrained eye, and swung it over her shoulder. "The problem is that I wasted 2 hours of my life on a man who shouldn't even be allowed inside a place like this." She pointed a finger at me, a long, accusing dagger. "You look at the bill," she announced to the room, her voice dripping with venom. "You actually checked the prices. I saw you. Who does that? If you can't afford to play in the big leagues, darling, stay at home with your microwave dinners. Don't waste my time." The humiliation was thick. I could feel the pity radiating from the tables around us. The couple to my left, an older gentleman and his wife, looked away in secondhand embarrassment. They saw a guy in a plain black t-shirt and jeans getting chewed out by a high-maintenance woman. They saw a broke loser getting exposed. They saw exactly what Tiffany wanted them to see. "I'm leaving," she spat. "And don't you dare follow me. I'm not getting into whatever beat-up wreck you valeted out front. I'll call a real man to pick me up." She turned on her heel, her red soles flashing, and stormed toward the exit. The click-clack of her heels echoed like gunshots until the heavy oak doors swallowed her up. The silence returned. The restaurant exhaled. The eyes shifted away from me, the show over. Now I was just the debris left behind. The wreckage. The waiter, a young man named Carlos who had been terrified of Tiffany all night, stepped forward. He looked pained. He looked sorry for me. "Sir," he whispered, placing the leather folder on the table. I can give you a moment." I looked at the folder. Inside was a bill for $2,840. Tiffany thought she had just crushed me. She thought she had left me broken, humiliated, and sweating over a bill I couldn't pay. She walked out of those doors thinking she was the queen of the chessboard, and I was just a pawn she had sacrificed. I reached for my water glass and took a slow, deliberate sip. The ice clinked against the crystal. She had no idea. She didn't know that the beat-up wreck she refused to get into was a one-of-one specification Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport sitting in the VIP hold. She didn't know that I owned the building across the street. And she certainly didn't know that this wasn't a date gone wrong. This was an audit, and she had just failed. Let's rewind. Let's establish the players in this little tragedy, because context is the difference between a victim and a tactician. My name is Dante. To the casual observer, I am a ghost. I don't have an Instagram with 1 million followers. I don't do get-ready-with-me videos. I don't wear Gucci belts with a logo the size of a dinner plate. If you pass me on the street, you wouldn't look twice. I wear plain, high-quality cotton t-shirts, vintage denim, and boots that are broken in. But in the circles that actually matter, commercial real estate, venture capital, distressed asset acquisition, I am very well known. I specialize in what I like to call quiet leverage. I find things that are broken, I buy them, I fix them, and I sell them for a fortune. I value two things above all else: time and truth. Money, to me, is just a tool. It's a hammer. You can use it to build a house, or you can use it to smash someone's ego into dust. I prefer to keep the hammer in the toolbox until it's absolutely necessary. Then there is Tiffany. Tiffany is what the modern world calls an image consultant. I checked her socials before the date. Her feed was a curated shrine to narcissism. Photos of her on yachts she didn't own, standing next to cars she couldn't drive, holding champagne glasses she didn't pay for. Her bio read, "Know your worth, then add tax." We met through a mutual acquaintance, Mark. Mark is a good guy, but he has a blind spot for women who look like Tiffany. She's misunderstood. Mark had told me over drinks a week prior. She puts up a front, Dante, but she's actually really down to earth. She just needs a guy who isn't intimidated by her energy. I told her you were successful. Did you tell her how successful? I asked, raising an eyebrow. No, Mark promised. I just said you were comfortable. I told her you were a consultant. I kept it vague, just like you like it. I agreed to the date against my better judgment. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I wanted to see if Mark was right. Maybe I just wanted a lobster dinner. But I have a rule, a protocol. I call it the poverty filter. When I go on a first date, I strip away the armor. No Rolex Daytona. No Brioni suit. No flashing the Amex Centurion card. I dress like a guy who works a 9 to 5, makes a decent living, but has to budget for a vacation. I want to know who the person is when they think there is nothing to gain from me but my company. If they like me for me, the world opens up to them. If they are looking for a sponsor, the door slams shut. For Tiffany, I decided to take the test a step further. On the night of the date, I drove the Bugatti. It's my one indulgence, a hypercar that is essentially a rocket ship with leather seats. Driving it is a visceral experience. The W16 engine doesn't hum, it growls. It vibrates through your spine. I pulled up to Le Jardin 30 minutes early. I didn't pull up to the front entrance where the valet stand is a runway for peacocks. I pulled around to the private back entrance, the one reserved for the owners and the ultra VIPs. The head valet, Henri, knows me well. "Good evening, Mr. Dante," Henri said, his eyes widening as he saw the machine. "We don't see the Chiron often." "Keep it back here, Henri," I said, handing him the fob and a crisp $100 bill. "Cover it up. I don't want anyone seeing it tonight. Especially not my date." "Understood, sir." Incognito mode. Henri winked. I walked through the kitchen, greeting the chef, and emerged into the dining room. I took my seat at table 14, a nice spot, but not the best in the house. I checked my watch. A simple field watch with a leather strap. Reliable. Unassuming. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. At the 25-minute mark, my phone buzzed. No text. Just a notification from Instagram. Tiffany had posted a story. A boomerang of her shoes stepping out of an Uber Black. Caption: "Late is just another word for anticipation." She walked in 5 minutes later. She didn't look for me. She stood at the hostess stand, looking annoyed that she wasn't immediately recognized. When the hostess finally pointed her toward me, I saw the disappointment hit her face like a physical slap. She scammed me. Shoes? Not designer. Watch? Not gold. Shirt? No logo. I stood up to greet her, offering a smile. "Tiffany? I'm Dante." She didn't hug me. She didn't shake my hand. She just looked at my t-shirt, then up at my face and sighed. "You're Dante?" she asked, her tone suggesting I was the delivery driver, not the date. "I am. Nice to meet you." "Right," she said, sliding into the booth without waiting for me to pull out her chair. She dropped her phone on the table face up. "Let's make this quick. I have an event at 11. She hadn't even looked at the menu yet, and I already knew the poverty filter was working overtime. She had already categorized me as a waste of time. Now, she was just going to try to extract as much value from the sunk cost as possible. "The wine list," she snapped at the waiter as he approached. "Bring me the reserve list, not the house list." I sat back, interlaced my fingers, and watched. The test had begun, and she was about to run up the score. There's a specific kind of arrogance that only exists when someone believes they are the most valuable person in the room. It's not just confidence, It's a total lack of awareness of anyone else's existence. Tiffany didn't order dinner. She commanded it. When Carlos, our waiter, returned with the reserve wine list, she didn't even open it. She just waved a manicured hand in the air. "We'll start with the Dom Perignon. The 2012 vintage," she said, not looking at him. "And bring the Grand Plateau Seafood Tower. The one with the Alaskan king crab legs. Make sure the oysters are Kumamoto. I hate the big ones. They're gritty." Carlos looked at me. It's standard protocol in high-end dining. The host, usually the man, nods approval before the order is fired, especially when the appetizer alone costs $300. I didn't blink. I just gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Whatever the lady wants," I said. Tiffany smirked. She interpreted my passivity as weakness. To her, I was a desperate guy trying to impress a woman out of his league. She thought I was sweating the price tag. She thought I was doing mental math, calculating how much overtime I need to work to cover this. "So," she said, finally looking at me as she poured the champagne herself before Carlos could reach the bottle. "Mark says you're a consultant. What does that even mean? Do you, like, fix computers?" She took a sip, her eyes judging the rim of the glass. "I solve problems," I said, keeping it vague. "Businesses get stuck. I get them unstuck." "Boring," she declared, setting the glass down. "My ex, Jason, he was a VP at Goldman. Now that is a job. He used to take me to St. Tropez for the weekend just because he was bored. We'd fly private. Have you ever flown private, Dante?" She didn't wait for an answer. She laughed, a short, cruel sound. "God, look at you. Of course you haven't. You're wearing a T-shirt to Le Jardin." The seafood tower arrived. It was a monument to excess. Crabs, lobsters, oysters, prawns. She dove in with a ferocity that was almost impressive. She ate the expensive parts, the claws, the tails, and left the rest. Between bites, she was on her phone, texting, scrolling. At one point, she actually took a selfie with the lobster claw, angling the camera so I was cropped out of the frame. I was just the wallet, the prop. "Are you going to order an entree?" I asked, sipping my water. She looked up, butter on her lip. "Obviously, I'm having the thermidor. It's the only thing worth eating here. The lobster thermidor at Le Jardin is legendary. It's also $500. It's not just a meal, it's a status symbol on a plate." "And you?" she asked, glancing at my menu. "I'll have the roast chicken," I said. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "Chicken? You come to a 5-star restaurant and order chicken? God, you really are basic, aren't you?" "I like what I like," I said simply. The dinner continued in that rhythm for an hour. She insulted my clothes. She insulted my quiet demeanor. She asked me what car I drove. "A 2-door coupe," I said. "Let me guess," she snorted. "A Honda Civic? Maybe a used Mustang." "Something like that," I replied. She laughed again, shaking her head. "You know, I'm actually doing you a favor, Dante. Being seen with me? It raises your stock. You should be thanking me. Most guys would kill to buy me dinner." She believed it. That was the scary part. She truly believed that her presence was a gift and my money was the tribute required to receive it. She treated Carlos like a servant, snapping her fingers when she wanted more water, complaining that the ice wasn't cold enough. She was digging a hole, and every insult, every snapped finger, every dollar added to the bill was a shovel full of dirt. In my line of work, we have a term called the silent gathering. It's the phase of a negotiation where you stop pushing back. You stop arguing. You go completely still. You let the other side feel like they are winning. You let them overextend. You let them put all their chips on the table because they think you have folded. That is where I was. I could have stopped her. I could have pulled out my phone and showed her the deed to the commercial complex we were sitting in. I could have thrown my key fob on the table and watched her eyes pop out of her head at the Bugatti logo. I could have shut her down with a single sentence. But I didn't, because justice isn't about stopping the crime. It's about the sentencing. And I wanted the sentence to be life without parole. I watched her order another bottle of champagne. The bill was now approaching $3,000. I did the math in my head. Dom Perignon, $450. Seafood Tower, $280. Lobster Thermidor, $500. Second bottle of Dom, $450. Appetizers, sides, dessert, cocktails. It was grotesque. It was gluttony. And it was perfect. "You're quiet," she said, picking at a gold leaf chocolate dessert. "Intimidated?" "Just observing," I said. "Well, stop staring. It's creepy." She wiped her mouth with the linen napkin and tossed it onto the half-eaten cake. "I'm done. I need to get to the club. My friends are waiting." This was the pivot point, the moment of truth. She sat back, reapplying her lip gloss in the reflection of a spoon, completely unconcerned with the logistical reality of the evening. She expected the dance to end the way it always did for her. The beta male pays the alpha female's toll. She walks away. He goes home with a lighter wallet and a story about how he had dinner with a 10. Carlos approached the table. He looked nervous. He knew the damage. He placed the leather folder gently in the center of the table, equidistant between us. The folder sat there, a black monolith. Tiffany didn't even glance at it. She was busy checking her angles in her phone camera. "Well," she said, gesturing vaguely at the folder. "Chop chop. I've got places to be." I looked at her. I looked at the folder. I reached out and opened it. I scanned the itemized list. $2,840. With tip, this was a $3,500 meal. I reached into my pocket. Not for the Amex Black. I reached for my personal debit card, the one I use for groceries. I placed the card on the bill. "Carlos," I said. The waiter stepped forward. "Yes, sir." I looked Tiffany dead in the eye. The silence stretched out, thin and tight like a wire. "Split it," I said. Tiffany froze. Her hand, holding the lip gloss wand, stopped in midair. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Split the bill." I repeated, my voice calm, flat, and absolute. "Right down the middle. 2 cards." For a second, she didn't understand. It was a foreign language to her. Then the realization hit. Her face went from bored to shocked to furious in the span of 3 seconds. "You want me to pay?" she stammered. Her voice rose an octave. "You invited me out." "Actually," I corrected her. "Mark suggested we meet. You invited yourself to the lobster, the champagne, and the dessert. I had the chicken." I tapped the bill. "I'm a consultant, remember? I believe in fair value exchange. Tonight, there was no value, just cost. So we go Dutch." The color drained from her face, then rushed back in a violent shade of red. "I don't carry a wallet," she hissed. "I never pay. This is insane. You are embarrassing me." "You have Apple Pay?" I said, pointing to her phone. "And judging by your bag, you have a card in there. Don't make a scene, Tiffany. Just pay your half, and you can go to your club." That was when the chair screeched. That was when she stood up and screamed. That was when she decided to burn the bridge while she was still standing on it. She thought her outrage would force my hand. She thought shaming me would make me crumble. She was wrong. I wasn't crumbling. I was just waiting for her to leave so I could finish the game. The echo of the heavy oak doors slamming shut seemed to hang in the air for a long time. Tiffany was gone. The storm had passed, leaving only the wreckage of her entitlement behind. I was alone at table 14. The restaurant was still quiet, the other patrons pretending to return to their meals while stealing glances at the cheapskate who had let a woman walk out. They judged me. I could feel it. In their eyes, I was the villain, the man who broke the social contract of high society dating. I didn't care. I picked up the leather folder again. I looked at the bill. $2,840. "Carlos," I said softly. The young waiter flinched. He looked terrified, as if I was about to yell at him next. He approached the table cautiously. "Sir, I can get the manager if you want to dispute the—" "No need," I said. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a different wallet. A slim, carbon fiber card holder. I slid a single card out. It was heavy, titanium, black, the Centurion card, the kind of card that doesn't have a limit, the kind of card that says you own the bank, not the other way around. I placed it on top of the bill. "Put the whole thing on this," I said. Carlos stared at the card. His eyes went wide. He looked up at me, confusion warring with shock. "Sir, you're paying for everything." "Everything," I confirmed. "And add a $500 tip for yourself. You handled her better than most people would have." Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." He was stammering now, his hands shaking slightly as he took the card. The shift in his demeanor was instant. I wasn't the broke loser anymore. I was the enigma. While he ran the card, I finished my water. I felt a deep, cold sense of satisfaction. It wasn't about the money. I could have bought the restaurant if I wanted to. It was about the principle. Tiffany wanted a free ride. She wanted to use me. By paying the bill after she left, I had stripped her of that power. She hadn't walked out on a cheapskate. She had walked out on a man who simply refused to be played. I signed a receipt with a flourish. I stood up, adjusting my jacket. "Have a good night, Carlos," I said. "You too, Mr. Dante. Please come back soon." I walked through the restaurant. The heads turned again, but this time the energy was different. I walked with the easy, heavy stride of a man who owes nothing to anyone. I pushed open the front doors and stepped out into the cool night air. It was raining slightly, a fine mist that made the street lights glow. And there she was. Tiffany was standing at the curb, huddled under the small awning of the valet stand. She was shivering. Her arms were wrapped around herself, her expensive dress offering zero protection against the cold. She was furiously tapping on her phone screen, the blue light illuminating a face twisted in frustration. She looked up as the door opened. When she saw me, her lip curled. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "Here to beg for forgiveness? It's too late. My Uber is 5 minutes away. You blew it, Dante. You blew it big time." I didn't say a word. I just stood next to her, looking out at the street. I was calm. She was chaos. The head valet, Henri, saw me emerge. He nodded once. He didn't walk toward the lot where the Hondas and Toyotas were parked. He walked toward the VIP hold. "You know," Tiffany said, her voice shrill, trying to fill the silence. "I'm going to tell everyone about this. Mark is going to hear about how cheap you are. You'll be blacklisted from every dating pool in the city." "Is that so?" I asked, checking my watch. "Yes. You're a joke. You probably drove here in a—" She was cut off by a sound. It started as a low rumble, like distant thunder. It grew louder, a deep, guttural growl that vibrated in your chest. It was the sound of 16 cylinders waking up. The sound of raw, unadulterated power. Every head at the valet stand turned. The couple waiting for their Porsche looked. The group of businessmen waiting for their limo looked. Tiffany looked. Around the corner, the beast emerged. Low, wide, aggressive. The Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. It was painted a deep, midnight blue that looked black until the light hit it. The massive horseshoe grille devoured the air. The quad-turbo W16 engine hissed and popped as it crawled toward us. It didn't look like a car. It looked like a weapon. The valets were practically bowing as it approached. It was a $3 million rolling sculpture. Tiffany's mouth fell open. Her phone slipped in her hand, nearly dropping to the pavement. She stared at the car. She stared at the badge. "Oh my God," she breathed. Who is that?" The car pulled up right in front of us. The brakes squeaked, ceramic composite, race ready. Henri jumped out of the driver's seat. He didn't go to the businessman. He didn't go to the couple. He walked straight to me. "Your car, Mr. Dante," Henri said, holding the key fob out with 2 hands. "She's warmed up for you." I took the key. I felt the weight of it in my hand. I turned to look at Tiffany. The look on her face was worth every penny of that dinner bill. It was a mixture of horror, confusion, and a sudden, sickening realization. Her eyes darted from the car to me, then back to the car. The gears were turning, but they were grinding. "This," she stammered. "This is yours?" I pressed the unlock button. The lights on the Bugatti flashed. The heavy doors swung open with a hydraulic hiss. "It's a 2-door coupe," I said, my voice deadpan. "Like I told you." I slid into the driver's seat. The leather smelled of success. The dashboard lit up like the cockpit of a fighter jet. Tiffany took a step forward. The anger was gone. The entitlement was gone, replaced by a desperate, hungry look. She put a hand on the door frame, leaning in. "Dante," she said, her voice suddenly sweet, dripping with fake charm. A smile plastered on her face. "Wait, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I was just having a bad day. Stress, you know." She looked at the empty passenger seat. "My Uber is taking forever," she cooed. Maybe you could give me a ride? We could go to that club." My treat. She was trying to salvage it. She saw the status, and like a moth to a flame, she wanted to be close to it. She thought she could just hit the reset button. I looked at her. I looked at her hand on my car. Get your hand off the paint, Tiffany, I said. She snatched her hand back as if she'd been burned. And to answer your question, I continued, looking her dead in the eye. No, I don't think we're a match. But you wanted a real man, remember? I said, I'm just the guy with the chicken. I pulled the door shut. The solid thud sealed me inside my own world. I saw her banging on the glass, mouthing something, probably an apology, probably a plea. I didn't hear it. The cabin was soundproof. I put the car in gear. I tapped the gas. The W16 roared, a sound that shook the awning and made Tiffany jump back. I pulled away from the curb, merging into the night, watching her figure shrink in the rearview mirror. She was standing alone in the rain, waiting for an Uber X while I disappeared into the city lights. My phone started buzzing before I even hit the highway. Ding, ding, ding. I glanced at the screen mounted on the dash. Tiffany, Dante, wait. Please pick up. Tiffany, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You tricked me. Tiffany, that wasn't fair. You can't just leave me here. Tiffany, can we please talk? I really felt a connection. I was just scared. I laughed. A connection. She felt a connection to the horsepower. Maybe to the bank account. But to me, she didn't even know me. I reached over and tapped the screen. Block contact. The buzzing stopped. The silence returned. Blissful, expensive silence. I drove for a while, just listening to the engine and the tires on the asphalt. The city blurred past. I thought about the $3,000 I'd spent. It was a lot of money for a meal I barely ate. But as an investment, as a lesson, it was a bargain. People like Tiffany navigate the world using price tags as a compass. They think value is something you wear, something you drive, something you show off. They mistake loudness for power. They mistake silence for weakness. They don't understand that the most dangerous thing in a room is usually the thing you don't notice until it's too late. I merged onto the bridge, the city skyline glittering to my left. I downshifted, and the car surged forward, pinning me to the seat. This is Dante, signing off. Remember, real wealth doesn't need to shout. It whispers. And if you have to tell people you're important, you aren't. Stay quiet. Stay sharp. And always check the bill. The fallout didn't stop at the curb. These things never do. The next morning, I was in my home office, reviewing a portfolio acquisition, when my phone rang. It was Mark, the mutual friend, the matchmaker. I knew exactly why he was calling. Tiffany wouldn't have gone home quietly. She would have spun a narrative. She would have painted herself as the victim of a cruel, misogynistic prank. She probably told him I left her stranded in a dangerous neighborhood because she refused to sleep with me. That's the standard playbook for people like her. Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. I picked up on the second ring. Morning, Mark. Dante. Mark's voice was tight. Stressed. Look, man, I just got off the phone with Tiffany. She is hysterical. I imagine she is, I said, leaning back in my chair, sipping black coffee. She said you humiliated her. Mark continued. She said you invited her to Le Jardin, ordered the most expensive things on the menu, and then forced her to pay the bill and left her in the rain. She's saying you're broke, and you used her for a free meal. She's threatening to blast you on social media. I didn't get angry. I just smirked. Is that what she said? Yeah, man. Look, I know you. That doesn't sound like you. But she was crying. She said the bill was $3,000. It was, I confirmed, $3,500 with the tip. And you made her pay? Check your texts, Mark, I said. I tapped my screen. I sent him a photo I had taken the night before. A simple picture of the merchant copy of the receipt, sitting on the dashboard of the Bugatti, showing the full amount paid by my Centurion card. I paid every cent, I told him while he looked at the image. But only after she walked out. She tried to stick me with the bill because she thought I was poor. I just let her think she'd have to pay her half. She showed her true colors before the check even hit the table. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Wait, Mark said, his voice changing. She walked out? She tried to stiff you. She called me a waste of space and stormed out, I said. I paid the bill. I tipped the waiter $500. Then I drove home. The only thing Tiffany lost last night was her ego. Mark let out a long, heavy sigh. Unbelievable. She told me she was testing you and that you failed. She told me you drove a Honda. I drove the Chiron, I said. Oh, Mark laughed. A dry, knowing laugh. Oh, man. She saw the Chiron? She saw it. That explains the crying, Mark said. She's not crying because she was scared, Dante. She's crying because she fumbled the bag. She realized she treated a whale like a minnow. She's a liability, Mark, I said, my voice hardening. Delete her number. She's not looking for a partner. She's looking for a host. Done, Mark said instantly. I'm sorry I set that up, man. I owe you a drink. A real one. It's forgotten, I said. I hung up. I checked Instagram one last time. I searched for Tiffany's handle from my burner account. She had deleted her story from the night before. The boomerang of the shoes. The caption about anticipation. Gone. In fact, her account was now set to private. She had gone into hiding. The realization of what she had done, insulting a man with serious connections, getting caught in a lie by our mutual friend, and exposing herself as a gold digger, had finally set in. In our circle, reputation is currency, and she was now bankrupt. I closed the phone and tossed it onto the mahogany desk. Justice served. Quietly, efficiently, and completely.